Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, The Big Boolean Theory. This video is part of a lecture series on operating systems, and in this video we are going to solve another GATE question. This question was asked in the year 1999 for 1 marks, and it is related to the topic of process management. To be precise, it is about system calls, right? And the question goes something like this. The question is system calls are usually invoked by using, and then your options are a software interrupt, polling, an indirect jump, or a privileged instruction. Right. So let us go over the option and see which is the correct answer. So let us see the first option, that is a software interrupt, right? So let us recall what is a software interrupt. Before that, let's recall what is an interrupt, right? So interrupt is basically a signal that can arise from a software or a hardware, right? And this signal is basically for the CPU. That is, the interrupt is used to notify or alert the CPU that there is a situation or an event that needs immediate attention from the operating system. And once the CPU detects this interrupt, what it does is that it stops whatever user process it was executing and immediately transfers the control to the operating system. And then the operating system executes a special routine in order to handle that interrupt, right? So this is what is an interrupt. And as we have already discussed earlier, that there are two types of interrupts. One is the software interrupt, which arises from like basically user processes that are running on the CPU, and the other is hardware interrupts that arise from hardware devices, the IO devices, right? So if you look at software interrupts, you can see the two examples are system calls and exceptions, right? So basically, when a user process makes a system call, right, it makes a system call by executing the trap instruction. And when that trap instruction is executed, there is an interrupt, there is a software interrupt. And when the CPU detects that interrupt, it immediately transfers control to the operating system, right, where the operating system like performs the requested basically the requested operation that the user process is requesting, right? So it is clear that system calls are invoked using software interrupts, right? So this diagram would make it more clear. This is the diagram of the detailed flow of system calls. We have already discussed this in one of the earlier videos. So if you see here in this step 3, when the trap instruction is executed, right, in this case it's the syscall instruction in x86 architecture. When the trap instruction is executed, the software interrupt is raised, and when the CPU detects that interrupt, right, basically as part of the instruction only, the CPU immediately transfers the control to the operating system, where the operating system then executes the appropriate routine. So the system calls are invoked using the mechanism of software interrupts. So the first option is the correct option. So even though we have like found the correct option, let's talk a bit about the other options also, right? So let's talk about polling. Polling is basically quite unrelated to system calls. Polling is related to the concept of IO devices, right? Uh, Basically, IO devices can perform the IO operation using different techniques. One of them is polling, the other is using interrupt driven IO, right? Then the third one is direct memory access, or DMA, about which we will talk in the module when we discuss IO management. But the idea is that polling is not related to system calls. It's a concept related to IO operations. Then now let's talk about the next option, that is an indirect jump. So first of all, let's understand what is a direct jump. A direct jump is basically a jump instruction where the address of the location, the destination address, is already known. For example, jump to address 100. Such an instruction is called a direct jump. Here we already know the destination address, that is 100, right? An indirect jump is where the address is not known. The address is present in some location, right? For example, let's say the instruction is jump to whatever address is present in register R1. If the instruction is something like this, jump R1, basically here we are saying jump to whatever address that is present in R1. This is an indirect jump because we do not know before executing this instruction that what is the value of R1, right? So this is an indirect jump. So is system call invoked using an indirect jump? Not really. Okay. So we know that system calls are invoked using a trap instruction. This trap instruction is not an indirect jump instruction. It is a special instruction which raises a software interrupt. And several things happen when this trap instruction is executed. So the program counter, the current program counter of the user process is saved. The privilege level is raised from user mode to kernel mode, right? Further interrupts might be disabled. And then there is a jump to the trap handler. So although you can say there is a jump as part of this trap instruction, but we cannot say that the system call is invoked using an indirect jump. Yes, there is a jump from the user process to the trap handler, but the point is that the system call is invoked using the software interrupt which is raised by the trap instruction. A minor, basically you can say the jump is part of the instruction, but that alone is not sufficient to make a system call. We have several other things like raising the privilege, disabling the interrupt, many things that are required uh, in order to invoke a system call. So that is why option C, that is an indirect jump, is a wrong option. And finally, the last option, a privilege instruction, right? If we say system calls are usually invoked by using a privilege instruction, this is also wrong. So basically, when we make a system call, there is a transition from user mode to kernel mode, right? Whatever code the kernel will execute, it will be in the privileged mode, right? So when we make a system call, then we go into the privileged mode. Only when we are in privileged mode, then we can execute privileged instructions. So we cannot be executing privileged instructions before making a system call. After making a system call, then only it's possible to execute a privileged instruction by the operating system. So again, system calls cannot be invoked by a privileged instruction. That is not how the privilege works. So we need an unprivileged instruction which causes a software interrupt to invoke a system call. That is the trap instruction. That is why these three options B, C, and D are incorrect. System calls are invoked using a software interrupt, right? So guys, this was it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.